Hello and welcome to Western Illinois for the round of Quincy, the 13th round in this year's TM Master Cup Series Championship. This track was originally built in 1969 as a dirt track. It was made pavement in 1974, and it's been a mainstay of the TM Master Cup Series calendar ever since. There have been a lot of upgrades to the infrastructure here in recent years. This track is due for a repave, however, although that has not come yet. The very rough surface and multiple grooves here make this a very daunting track, not to mention the incredibly steep banking here. There is enough room to go 5 wide around this asymmetrical half-mile oval that has cemented itself in motorsports history for half a century. Races here often see double-digit cautions, high amounts of attrition, and tempers flaring by the end of it. But we've also seen some very calm affairs here, so who knows what kind of race we're going to get today. 46 cars will start today's 225-lap race around this famed half-mile. Let's run through the starting grid. On the pole for the first time since Road Atlanta is Joe Olenek in the Hodges Walter 23 car. On his outside, Saul Fischel, the rookie, leading the point standings. His nearest challenger is Chris Davenport in the 17 car, who got his first win here. Tom Moore on his outside. David Krikorian inside row 3 alongside Liv Eklund got her first win out in spectacular fashion at Road America. Her two teammates right behind her in row 4, Ingrid Hadeland and flying Christina Orion, the first promoters option car 80. Adrian Devereaux in row 5 along with a surprising Carter Fitzgerald. Row 6, Marco Castaneda and Chuck Johnson, who has always excelled in the short tracks, an excellent qualifying effort from him. Cameron Taylor and the second promoters option, Darian Gilliam in car 35. Greg Woodard in car 41 excelled here last year, and Arto Kekin in the reigning series champion. Row 9 is Tony Durbin and Kenny Myatt in car 70, putting the Tenere in the top 20. Lewis Kingston and Kurt Pliskin feature in row 10. Row 11, Marcus Leonard, the Canadian, and Luciano Savaral, the Brazilian, with his teammate right behind him, Zelda Ashby in car 55. Ike Durbin is alongside her in row 12. Excellent effort from Mike Durbin. Gareth Hunt and Alessandro Rossini make up row 13. Row 14, Yevgeny Kuznetsov and Phil Purpura is going for the lead of the Independence Trophy today in car 21. Row 15, Daniel Leckleiter and Lucas Grabert, the German, in row 15. Going back to row 16, another Independence Trophy car, Lonnie Rollins, the 980 car, and Timothy Ruiz has moved over to Team Timothy for this race and Indianapolis. Row 17, Packer Carroll in car 71 and Brandon LaRoe in the 25. Row 18 has Tony Long and Carmen Sienna making her 4th start in a row for Hastert Racing. This time, however, it's as a regular driver in what was the 33 car. In row 19, Ryan Matthews and Craig Yonser, both of them looking for more in the race. Richard Scott and Zach Webster have both struggled all weekend. Gabriel Messena is in the 50 car in place of Truman Ellison. And welcome back John Parker Jr. in car 53 as a promoter's option for New Liberty Racing. And welcome back Bobby Porteau, the famed American short tracker in a family-owned car, car 51. Gaspar de Souza did not set a qualifying time, and neither did Team EFR. Scott Bates and Ian Cooper will start at the back of the grid because the teams were replacing the rear suspensions on those cars during qualifying. They did not show a lot of pace in first practice, however, they looked fairly competitive in final practice yesterday. After the very hectic round of Wisconsin, there was a lot of conversations about the start of the race, and whether or not there be any penalties handed towards Ingrid Hadeland. Hadeland, the driver of car number 19, has been put on probation for the rest of the year. However, there were a lot of talks that a suspension was going to be levied to the Norwegian. However, as you can tell, that is not the case. She is lined up in row 4. As we're looking at Joe Olenek and Saul Fischel on their way to the green flag. Olenek in the dark blue car, Fischel in the light blue and white car on the outside. And here we go. Great start by Joe Olenek as he leads the field into turn 1. Fischel a little slow off the line, as was Davenport. Fischel falling into the grips of the rest of the field. Davenport has already gotten by him. Krikorian beginning to challenge on the inside. Fischel and Lennard International, his team, have stated all weekend long that they were not happy with officiating at Road America. They have prefaced all of their interviews this week by saying that Hadeland should have been suspended for repeatedly targeting him on track throughout the course of the season. As you see right there, that red and blue car, that is Ingrid Hadeland going on by. She has not been suspended. She is on probation for the rest of the year, we do believe. And Saul Fischel and Lennard International have reiterated that that was not nearly enough to stop what they believe has been an unfair assault on them. As you see Adrian Devereaux even going by. Fischel now beginning to find some space. Here is Darian Gilliam in car number 35, and he is just soaring through the field right now. He's caught up to Liv Eklund in the car number 11, but this 35 car was decently fast in practice, so you're going to have to keep an eye on him. This track plenty wide, Eklund giving him plenty of space there, and right behind these two you see that is Gareth Hunt in that red and yellow Tutino, car number 42. He's beginning to make up a lot of ground as well, so great start there for the Irish driver. Eklund letting Gilliam go by, and she might give up another position to Hunt. Back up with the leaders. Here is Chris Davenport making a move on Joe Olenek for the lead. This is the site of Davenport's first win back when he was driving for the American Launch Energy Racing Team, which through a series of ownership changes is now the Lennard International Team. Hadeland really beginning to make a move on Olenek now, as Olenek lets her go on the inside. Hadeland moving up into second. Of course, Ingrid Hadeland is driving with a little bit of fire, I think, this week, especially given the amount of bulletin board material that she's been given by Saul Fischel, Lennard International, and a few others associated with that outfit. And as Davenport trying to pull away and get some space, however, Hadeland is really beginning to chase him down. David Krikorian is moving up on his teammate, and he's going to move up into third place, it looks like. But Davenport, the Californian, holding steady at the front so far. Hadeland, is she going to make a move on the inside? Looks like she is. Davenport, is he going to try to fight it on the outside? He may not have an option here. Hadeland's going to go on by, and Krikorian is going to lose third to Cameron Taylor in that white and blue My Schaefer car back there. Car number 7, look out for him. Here's Arto Kekkonen, the reigning series champion in car number 1, the Syra machine. He's trying to follow Scott Bates in his way through the field. He's got Gasper D'Souza behind him, Kingston on his outside. Oh, contact there with Lewis Kingston, car outside. That's Johnson involved. Early caution, and that is Kekkonen involved, Chuck Johnson, who really needed a good result. And he's not going to get it because Arto Kekkonen was going 3 wide there in that one car. Scott Bates made a great start there in that black 6 car. Now on the inside, Kekkonen, is Johnson pinching down a little bit? Or no, I think the Kekkonen just drifted up into Kingston. Big hit there early for the reigning champion, and also to Lewis Kingston in the 108 car. That's a big disappointment for the G5 team there that Kingston drives for. It's not going to take him out, I don't think, but that's going to be 2 races this year where he started off with a fairly wounded car early. He's not going to be happy about that, and we got problems with Carter Fitzgerald in car number 60. This is another early problem for Fitzgerald. She doesn't look terminal. She's waving for Packer Carroll to go by her in line. Yeah, looks like a tire on Carter Fitzgerald that she caught under yellow. Great catch for such an inexperienced driver, but Chris Davenport is now going to lead the field to the green, and that's going to put Fitzgerald well behind the 8 ball. Running order on the left side there. Here is Hadeland making a run at the Californian early. Hadeland not able to do it there, coming off of 2. Here comes Cameron Taylor in the 7. A little bit of friendly bumper tag in the middle of 3 and 4. But he's not able to get enough momentum to take second yet. He may have it there, though, as Joe Olenek real loose condition there in the 23 car, and we have all 3 of the protagonists in the season opener at Remembrance Field here. Joe Olenek, Saul Fischel, and Adrian Devereaux in the 74. All 3 major players in that race, and it's not really a surprise to see all of them as a factor here. And Fitzgerald is rejoined in the 60 car, so we're going to see how well she's going to do for the rest of today. If I know anything about Fitzgerald, I would imagine she's going to keep trying to fight and get as much ground as she can get, especially if this race goes green for a long way, because a few years ago, back in 2016, this race went green for 150 laps. The last 150 laps were green, and 10th place was 3 laps down. We could see something like that today, as we have Gabriel Messena here in the 50 car. It looks like he was in the he was part of that earlier caution. Of course, he is normally a SAR of Brazil factory driver, the Brazilian division of the SAR Motor Company. Here he is driving, though, for Tutino in what we think is a one-off drive, as here is Kurt Pliskin in car number 16, running back in 19th. Getting around Alessandro Rossini, that's Richard Scott entering the pits in car number 92, as Pliskin trying to hold off the number 3 Volpe, Alessandro Rossini. Rossini's had a terrible season so far. He's been well and truly outpaced by Tom Moore. A bit of a surprise to be that lopsided. Rossini needs to get something going, and that's Scott Bates right there. The car in front of Pliskin there, that's Carter Fitzgerald in the 60 car, and she's making life quite difficult for cars on the lead lap right now. Here's Tony Durbin in car number 12. Abbott American will be on this car for Indianapolis, we do believe, as got a problem with the 10 car right in front of him. Lecklighter slowed suddenly. And looks like he's coming to the pits. Flat tire, we believe, or at least the tire going down. He's a veteran. He's been around a long time. He's going to be able to pick that up pretty quick. That's really disappointing because he was running up in 16th. Of course, the winner at Wales in that car number 10, the Tenere, has been quicker here than usual as we got a battle for the lead shaping up. Cameron Taylor, the Ohioan in car number 7, trying to take the lead from Davenport, the Californian in car number 17. And Taylor's got it. No relation between Cameron Taylor and 04 Master Cup Drivers Champion Matt Taylor. Davenport crossing over, coming back at him though. Davenport having a run on Cameron Taylor as David Krikorian in car number 13 is really beginning to enter the frame for the battle for the lead here. This could be 3 cars. Krikorian's had a lot of really strong runs this year, but a lot of them have been undone by mechanical failures at the worst time. As that 13 car could be a legitimate title threat still. We still have a long ways to go this season. As here comes Taylor on the inside of Davenport. I think a lot of people expected Taylor to have a win already, whereas his teammate, Saul Fischel, is leading the championship and got a win earlier in the year. Krikorian having a look on Cameron Taylor. But that's not to say Cameron Taylor hasn't been close on a couple of occasions. Wales being the notable one where he was very close to snagging his first career win. But as King Arthur Thomas once stated, you have to put yourself in position to get wins before you actually get them. As we now look back at Liv Eklund in car number 11, that bright yellow, red, and blue car. She is running in 10th and has been holding off Greg Woodard and Darian Gilliam quite well. Eklund making that yellow car very, very wide. She has become quite the menace to get by. She's held off 2 cars probably substantially faster than hers. And this is a track that she admitted to last year being terrified of. The Swede has continued her tradition of wearing a pride flag like a cape during driver introductions. And here's John Parker Jr., who has 1 Master Cup win to his name. Came back in 2009, but he's up to 15th after starting well down the order. He's been, for those of you who've wondered what happened to him and where he's been, he was running in the ASCC for a bit, and for the past 4 years has been racing over in Japan with quite a bit of success to his name. Doing very, very well in the All Japan GT Championship. And that's also partially what sparked his return here, and the fact that he has going to be competing in the TM Asia Series, which is slated to be opening in just a couple of weeks' time. So, John Parker Jr. Making quite a career for himself, a career that I don't think anyone would have seen coming. And here is Brandon LaRue in car number 25. I failed to mention this during the grid piece, but he's got a different paint job in this car. Featuring Zeker on that car. It's a very, very brightly colored car. It's a very hard car to miss. And here is Scott coming out of the pits, and that's damage from the earlier caution on that car. And he's doing this, looks like. And this is a strategy that Marcus Leonard pioneered several years ago, where he would just do just enough to keep himself from getting flagged off of the track. Did it at Salem. Race Control is not saying anything about this, as we've noticed. It was something that got Marcus Leonard, vaulted him up through the results, and got him a lot more points than he would have otherwise. Now you might wonder why you would do something like that when championship points only go down to 20th. That's not the case for Independence Trophy cars, so Richard Scott has every reason to keep doing that. Here is flying Christina Orion in car number 80, holding off Tony Durbin, and that's Zelda Ashby in another green car on the inside. And there's Cooper in the background in that very brightly green, very bright green Octane car back there. Ashby going by Orion as if she's not even there. Ashby really beginning to spread her wings and fly through the field. As now we look at Cooper and Tony Durbin doing battle for 20th, the final points paying position. Tony Durbin sliding up in front of Cooper, but they go right on by. And Cooper now into the points from the very last row of the grid. And those are 2 drivers who are off each other's mutual holiday card lists. Tony Durbin really didn't want to give that up, and that goes way back to when they were teammates at what was then Team SAR USA. Here is Scott Bates, who is now going to be running in 22nd. Tony Durbin really beginning to drop through the field because Scott Bates is really reeling him in. And here is Bobby Porteau in car number 51, the short tracker in a family-owned car. This is a team that's known up in the FARC series, particularly in some of their late model divisions. Going on the inside of Phil Purpura for 24th. Purpura having a hell of a run today so far, and if he gets a good enough result, Purpura anyway, he could leave here with the lead of the Independence Trophy, which is what he wants entering Indianapolis, as here we have the leaders encountering lap traffic. That is Zach Webster, a Lennard in the 87, holding up Chris Davenport, and that's another Lennard in second place. Not the 87 and 7 are not teammates, but same manufacturer is behind both teams. And there you see Davenport sliding up in 3 and 4. Cameron Taylor almost poked his nose in on the inside, but thought better of it. Zach Webster, another man who needs a really good run. There are some reports that his drive may be on the line, but I haven't put much stock in those lately because we've heard that for a while and nothing seems to have come of it, as Taylor really beginning to have a look on Davenport as Davenport goes inside of Gabriel Macena to put him a lap down. Taylor goes on by the 50 as well. Macena signaled both of them to go by. Very sporting for the young Brazilian. Here is Carmen Sienna making her 4th start in a row for Hastert Racing. In her first 3 starts, she did so as a promoter's option in the 31 car with a very similar livery on it. This car has been running this year as the 33 car with Timothy Ruiz at the wheel. Her sponsor requested the number change to 96. That is the number Sienna is known for running. She's a much more well-known name in endurance racing. The Cherokee driver running a very respectable race out there so far. She's currently running in 28th place. Very good start for her on one of her first runs on an oval. Going further back to Tom Moore in car number 4. Actually, well, Tom Moore is actually well ahead of Sienna, but he's got Ingrid Hadeland right behind him. He's closing in on a huge gaggle of cars that's got Eklund in it and the Ike Durbin car right there. That white and green car, a little contact there between Durbin and I think Fischel. Carroll in that bright green 71 car is holding this group up a bit as well, but Carroll also running a very strong race. Hadeland in that 19 car and Eklund in the 11 are going to probably be resuming a years-long battle. Of course, the battle they had at the round of Los Angeles drastically affected the outcome of that race, and they were battling for position a lap down. I think Moore and Joe Olenek back there are kind of wizened up from that and are just going to let that play itself out. But Moore may not have an option if he's going to run down Fischel right up ahead of him. As here is Eklund and Hadeland, with Moore now entering now very much closer to the frame here. Moore trying to prevent Fischel from getting away. Eklund trying to hold on the outside. This track much wider than the Maxwell Center is. And there comes Tom Moore closing the door a little bit on Hadeland. All's fair there. And Moore goes on by. Tom Moore, one of the best short track drivers on the circuit. 2 wins on short tracks already this year, including a win at the aforementioned Maxwell Center, the round of Los Angeles. Eklund, of course, in this car number 11, hanging on as she slides backwards. Here is Timothy Ruiz in car number 68. He is running back in 33rd. He's the last car in the lead lap right now, getting used to the Team Timothy car. We understand he will be back with Hastert Racing at some point later this year, whatever that means, but that's what the press release said. We don't know exactly what's going on there, but there's a lot of flux going on at some teams further back in the grid. And Adrian Devereaux was particularly vocal about his displeasure that Connor Friel was fired from this car. Thought that was being unfair to Friel, even though even given Friel's performances on track. Devereaux not saying that as a slight against Timothy Ruiz, who has done very, very well so far this year. As we've got a problem with Ashby, maybe? Yes, looks like it. She is pulled off to the inside way too early for that to be a scheduled pit in. And that's hugely disappointing because Ashby was really beginning to push forward through the field. As we got a battle for the lead here, still heating up, is still really, really hot here. As Taylor on the inside of Davenport, he's finally going to be able to get by him. That's Gareth Hunt in the 42 car going a lap down. The two Tinos both running identical liveries this week. We believe Macena is actually running Hunt's backup car. And here's the battle for 7th between Eklund, Hadeland, and Moore, who is going to go by on the inside and get by both of them. Hadeland got way out of shape coming off turn 2. There's the 55 of Zelda Ashby, who's gotten herself back on track. Eklund way high in the middle of 3 and 4, and she's going to fall back into the clutches of Luciano Savarol. Tom Moore holding the middle. Hadeland going low. And that 92 car is Richard Scott. He's holding the inside, and he's still running around out there logging laps. Brilliant stuff as Cameron Taylor is beginning to pull away from Chris Davenport, as Davenport had some problems getting around Brandon LaRoe. Taylor trying to put a lap on Timothy Ruiz in the 68 car. And he's going to be able to do that there. He's going to be able to do that. Now Ryan Matthews is next, and I wonder, Ryan Matthews in that 06 car, there's some really sketchy moments there getting by the 92, and Pura uses that as an opportunity to pit, and that looks scheduled. Tony Long is in as well in the 191 car. Haven't mentioned him today. Beautiful livery on car 191 for long. Woodard is in the 41 in that blue and red car. The Woodard Freight and Transit Company is a Woodard Transit and Freight Company. Very, has a big operation not far from this track. As Cameron Taylor, the race leader, is in. David Krikorian now inherits the lead. That is Gasper D'Souza right in front of him in the 20 car, the KLTV machine. Not having a great day so far is D'Souza, but the Portuguese driver really continuing to soldier on. As Ryan Matthews back here in 29th is. Oh no, he's let go. The engine's let go in the 06. That might be why he was dropping through the field, but smoke came out of the back of that car. The observers are checking to see if there's fluid on the track because they will throw the yellow here if that's the case. Looking at pit in now, or looking at the pit lane from outside turn 1, see if anyone else comes in. That's Sienna, I believe, leaving in the 96 car. That's still not an easy car to tell apart from a couple others. It's red and black. That's the 92 Richard Scott. Got a good look at the entire track there. And here is Ashby on newer tires unlapping herself. So if there's any picture right there to show you how much of an effect tires have, there you go. Ashby goes flying by David Krikorian as if he was standing still, really, and gets herself and unlaps herself. Here's Marco Diaz Castaneda, who's had a very quiet run inside the top 5. He's running 4th. Fischel right behind him. That is Long in the 191. Fischel and Castaneda, they were big rivals in the TM Light Series last year. Not so much this year, but Castaneda is still keeping himself very much in the hunt for the championship. He's definitely not out of it. I would say that much. He's just going to need to really pick it up in the second half of the year if he's going to catch Fischel, who has a pretty big lead so far. As David Krikorian getting held up by some lap cars, and a couple of whom are significantly faster than him. Leonard just went by him in that light blue car there, and that's Woodard directly behind him. Myatt on his inside. Woodard's going to go 3 wide, but Woodard had such a huge run that he basically had to make that move. I don't think he wanted to 4 wide there. Woodard, the 41 car, had such a massive run on Krikorian that he had no choice but to make that move. And Greg Woodard, normally very, very gentlemanly driver, and David Krikorian as well. Here's Scott Bates in traffic in the car number 6. Leonard right behind him. Ashby there as well. There's Chuck Johnson soldiering out without a front end on that car. Oh, contact between Leonard and Bates. Bates goes around, and that's gonna put a damper on what was a pretty good day. Scott Bates is gonna enter the pits immediately, though. He was already in the pit lane, corrected the car, and just pulled it into his box. They're not going to no yellow, no caution being called because he was already off the racing surface. Very, that's a call I agree with from race control, being very consistent about that. Cars that are going to be left on the apron they're very much out of harm's way here because momentum will usually carry a car towards the outside wall here. As you see, some of the leaders are pitting. There's Ruiz in as well in the 68. That's LaRoe coming in. That's a car we can pick out really quick. Purple and teal car. Here is Fischel, Castaneda, and Savaral, who's really begun to make a strong impression in that there Atlantis car number 5. Of course, Fischel there in the blue and white Maische car number 8, and the candy red and black and blue number 9 of Marco Castaneda. Brandon LaRoe is in. David Krikorian also came in with Fischel earlier. That's Porto in, Davenport in, Orion in. Here comes, that is Grabert, Rollins, Eklund, Joe Olenek is in. And that is Hadeland, and it's a white car, Kuznetsov in the 15 car. The white, blue, and red 15 car, the new Liberty Racing car for Yevgeny Kuznetsov, the very popular Russian. Myatt is in. Tony Durbin, Adrian Devereaux, Ike Durbin all coming in. Krikorian now leaving the pits in car number 13. As he has really had a solid day here, a very quiet day, and I think given how the way his year's gone so far, he'll take that because with the pace he's shown just on a week-to-week basis, he should be in for a good result today. Here's Liv Eklund doing battle with Bobby Porto, 2 drivers who on surface level couldn't be any more different, but in fact both of them were here on Friday to watch the weekly division here. This is one of the few tracks left in the Master Cup calendar that still hosts a weekly division. And in that division, they're not allowed to go above the white line you see in the corners. Uh-oh, speeding penalty, car 55. Ashby, that strategy has all come undone, as Ashby's going to have to come into the pits, and that's rare to see in this age of pit speed limiter. She's been really fast all race long. It's just that she is fast where she shouldn't be. That's a very rare thing to see happen these days. Usually only happens once or twice a year, and it's bit Ashby, so there you go. Here's Cameron Taylor in car number 7, who is leading the race. We are on lap number 97, running order on the left side. A couple things to note here as he's clicking off lap times of about 17 seconds back. You may notice the number of cars off the lead lap. 17 seconds behind the leader at Road America at the finish of the race would have been good enough for 5th. And 34 seconds, which is twice that distance, would have put you in 9th at the end of the race, as Greg Woodard and Marcus Leonard, who are scored 2nd and 3rd at the moment, pitted a lot earlier as we are approaching lap 100. They're going to take lap 100 this time by Leonard in car 999, Greg Woodard in car 41. Two very brightly colored cars. Those two. Here is Carter Fitzgerald, who is running well up the order. Who is running well up the order in car number 60, but she's going to need a pit again pretty soon. So Fitzgerald's in a little bit of trouble here as far as her strategy goes. I think she was hoping for a caution right about now, and with the way things are going, that might well happen as Davenport goes by on the inside. Here comes Pira in car number 21. That is Grabbert in the 34. That's touch and go in the Gravity Racing car. One of the Gravity Lawrence cars, I should say. Here is Tony Long, who is up in 6th place. However, he's got a lot of much faster cars bearing down on him because he pitted very, very early. That's working out for him so far, but he's going to need some yellows, I believe, in order for that strategy to really work out. As Ingrid Hadeland is fighting to stay in the lead lap with Craig Janser in car number 81, who got by Taylor a little while ago to unlap himself, but Ingrid just goes right on by the Scarabs machine, puts him back off the lead lap. And Janser, who's quietly had a really good day so far, and actually, he's had an excellent season that I don't think many people have noticed, and we've got problems with Alessandro Rossini. Now, I was going to get to him because he had dropped through the running order so drastically. Oh, he's got a problem there. There's a tire down in the 3 car, and that's going to bring a yellow. That's a yellow for car number 3, as here we are now, the field getting ready to take the restart for that, it looks like. And here we have Cameron Taylor in car number 7 on the outside. On the inside, Craig Janser in car number 81. And that is a very well-timed yellow for some, and for others, not so much. And you can sort of tell based on what line they're in. Lead lap cars on the outside, lap down cars on the inside. Craig Janser, Zach Webster, and Darian Gilliam on the bottom lane there. There's the restart. Taylor gets off the line very strongly. So does Woodard and Leonard, who are off cycle, but this is really going to help their case quite a bit in cars 41 and 999. Janser now back in front of Taylor. Now here comes Gilliam. A lot of cars trying to put themselves back in the lead lap and back in contention, and they have every right to fight the leader as hard as they can to stay in the lead lap. Janser gets loose in turn 1. He catches the car. Good heads-up driving by Cameron Taylor to stay off of him. And we got a whole log jam of cars here fighting for position. Cooper going on the inside in that emerald green number 2 car. There is Myatt on the inside in the white 70 car. Leonard way up out of the groove. One of the Tutinos is going 4 wide there and is all sorts of sideways. Gasper de Souza in car number 20 also in the mix there. Car way on the inside that looks like that was Kurt Pliskin. And there is Fitzgerald in the mix as well. Here's Krikorian going for the lead, it looks like. In this, in rush hour traffic, it looks like. A DK up to P1 in car number 13 in the Haas Manufacturing car. Adrian Devereaux's old team, the Killer Sharks. Speaking of Devereaux, there he is. The Killer Sharks, of course, referring to the pit crew and the shape of the old Colton Morrell car to a very pointed nose. As Woodard contact with Savarall, Cameron Taylor. That's all very heads-up driving by all 4 of them to avoid an accident there. Adrian Devereaux, the Frenchman, really going for it in that 74 car, the Michelin Sons number 74. It's the number they're most famous for, but it hasn't captured a Master Cup yet. Adrien Devereaux been trying to amend that this year, and he is on a mission, but he doesn't quite look like Adrien Devereaux in previous years. You don't see the absurd win totals and absurd amounts of DNFs to go along with it, as Cooper in car number 2 is fighting to stay on the lead lap, and Devereaux, is he going to make this move around DK on the outside? Doesn't look like he's got enough momentum. But Cooper holding their ground in that green 2 car. DK is going to have to try to send this in on the inside. Adrien Devereaux on the ACAB Solutions, car number 74, trying to fight on the outside. And here comes Luciano Savaral in the mix in that red, white, and blue Atlantis car. Cooper holding on in this 2 car. They're out of the way of the leader, but DK's got to get by them. Same time, though, they're trying to keep their own race alive in case a caution comes. DK hit the paint. That slowed him up quite a bit. Adrien Devereaux through the middle. Adrien Devereaux through the middle and not quite in front. Not going to cut off DK. The Frenchman very, very observant as to where he is. And a little bit of contact there, but nothing out of the ordinary. Just mild contact there. As here is Liv Eklund and Saul Fischel, 2 drivers who are not at all friendly with each other, and that goes back to at least Carbondale this year. However, I suspect it's gone on for longer. A couple months ago, it was reported that Fischel was trying to get his license changed to read that he is an Israeli driver instead of an American driver. The paperwork on that is still pending. There's been quite a few holdups in verifying his citizenship or residency in the world's most obvious apartheid state. Anyways, back to more pressing matters. He's getting around Lucas Grabert in the 34, and that's his teammate right up there, Cameron Taylor in the 7. So Fischel really beginning to work his way back towards the front of the field that he's been running in the lower end of the top 10 for quite some time. As here is Tony Long entering the pits again in car 191. He is running in 17th. Here is Sienna, car number 96. She is running 15th, and that's Pura right in front of her. Of course, Sienna will not be the only Native American driver entered for the round of Indianapolis. We expect Aiden Shepard to join her on that, make that 2 different Native American drivers from representing different tribes, so that'll be quite exciting. That'll be the first time in a long time that's been the case. Savaral beginning to work on Krikorian here for what would be second, and nope, not quite. David Krikorian sweeping around the outside of Savaral there in car number 13. Scott Bates on the inside there in the 6, sliding up inside Savaral. Scott Bates is a lot faster than Luciano is right now, and he's going to go right on by, as that's going to hold up. Scott Bates lifted up a bit early there for turn 1. That set up Chris Davenport. I think that may have taken Savaral by surprise, but the Brazilian's going to kind of have to just kind of deal with that there. And here is Woodard and Leonard in. Of course, they also pitted a lot earlier than they pitted earlier, so that explains why they're in the pits along with Long. Here is Sienna in car 96. She's had a brilliant debut few races here in the Master Cup Series. Carmen Sienna, car 96. Watch for her in the future. Here is car number 21, Phil Purpura, who is, as I mentioned earlier, looking to take the lead of the Independence Trophy. He's not looking at anything else, and that is Cameron Taylor in the 7. Of course, he will automatically be entered into the round of Indianapolis, and he hopes to qualify. And he's also hoping that Mason Yokoyama doesn't. Here is Devereaux now, who has inherited the lead of the race in car number 74, the neon yellow car. Devereaux been mentoring Kareem Washington, who's been running in the Master Cup Series on and off lately, and also in the TM Light Series. Here is Cameron Taylor into the pits in car number 7. Devereaux's mentee, Washington, of course, won here yesterday, and Washington pretty thankful for the help that Devereaux has given him in teaching him some of his tricks here. As Pliskin in the car number 16 trying to hold off, trying to stand the lead lap in that 16 car. Pliskin's had a bit of a quiet day. Not as spectacular as he would have liked, but Power Steering Incorporated looks like they're a little bit further back than where they were last year, but still a very, very credible team and a regular threat for top 10s and possibly a few more race wins as the year goes on. We'll have to see. They have some big developments coming, we understand, as Davenport swings by a bunch of lap cars there, being held up there by Zach Webster in the 87. Rossini is in the 3. He has not had a very good day, to put it lightly. And Alessandro Rossini, I think, is just going to be looking to leave this race and just hope that Indianapolis goes better for him. Here is Tom Moore in car number 4 on the inside of Krikorian and Parker Jr. Oh, Tom Moore very loose outside on the exit of turn 2. Goes way inside in turn 3. Tom Moore has had a lot of success here. He got his first couple of top 5s here, I do believe. And nearly won as an Independence Trophy driver here on at least one occasion. As Rossini rejoins the race, he is many, many laps down. The race control is watching this car to see if there was something, see if there was smoke coming out of the back of this car. But we're gonna, yep, oh, yep, there it is, there it is. Yep, there was a lot of smoke for a while ago, and now it's really pouring out the back of car number 3. Rossini pulls that car off on the apron. That is gonna, that might draw a caution. I don't know. The observers were watching for that and see if he was dropping anything on the track. They're saying no, or they can't see anything at least. As Darian Gilliam resuming battle with Liv Eklund, he has no problem dispatching the Swede this time. He was held up quite a bit by Eklund earlier in the race, and no marks on either one of those two cars, even though they were running each other very hard very early. Devereaux now is closing in on Eklund, who is going to try to fight to stay in the lead lap, I believe. There goes Craig Janser in the 81. The Scarabs machine just flies right on by. So Janser in that 81 car, look at the speed difference. I believe he's already pitted for tires, and he is just pulling away from Devereaux and Eklund, who are several laps ahead of him. Janser can make up a lot of ground, but if there's a caution at the wrong time, this could really burn him. He has had a pretty decent run there in that 81 car. Now here is Davenport, who's running in second, a long ways behind Devereaux. This is a Mitchell & Sons 1-2 so far. But Chris Davenport from the Bay Area in California, continuing to have a strong podium run, it looks like. And Luciano Savarol back here in third. A little ways back from Davenport has got Joe Olenek all over him, or about to be all over him. As Krikorian now closing in on the 51 car. DK running in 7th. That is Bobby Porteau right in front of him. Famed short tracker Porteau. Of course, Krikorian, also one of the many drivers here who was watching the weekly series and all the support categories, mostly as a fan, seemingly. As there is Olenek getting held up a little bit by Grabbert, but he is running in the top 5. A couple more cars pitting. There you see, there is Grabbert coming in. That is the 92 car again. David Krikorian just pitted. The race leader is in. Now there's Kingston in. That's Hadeland in the 19. So we now have the leaders pitting. There's Cooper in. That's, I believe that was Rollins right behind them. There is Parker Jr., Porteau, Castaneda. That's Orion right behind him. Christine Orion having a quiet day. There's Adrian Devereaux is in the 74. I mistakenly called Krikorian the race leader a while ago. Having issues reading things, perhaps. Now Davenport has inherited the lead in the car number 17. As we're going to see if he's able to make up a lot of ground just by putting in some stronger laps and hope that he doesn't catch as much traffic in the pit lane. Savarol leaving the pits in the Airlantis SAR, car number 5. Looks like he's going to rejoin right behind David Krikorian and right in front of Marco Diaz Castaneda. So Savarol, we'll see where he cycles out, but he's having a pretty good race so far. Tom Moore in car number 4 is still out there. Lap 170, still hasn't pitted yet. There goes Kingston, there goes Webster by. They're not really of any consequence. Eklund, however, is in that 11 car. Moore swinging at Eklund, not giving him a whole lot of space. Moore swings it wide. Oh, Moore pits in. Oh, contact with Eklund. They both go around. And that's going to be another caution. And that is, I'm not sure Moore saw her down there at all. His spotter certainly must have, because that bright yellow, red, and blue car is very easy to see. If I'm Eklund, I'm not sure what she could have done to avoid that either, because there's no way she could have seen that coming. And even if she did see him start to come down the track, she couldn't have got out in the way in time. D'Souza pits in the 20 car. A lot of other cars are pitting as well. That's going to actually work really well for D'Souza and for Saul Fischel in the 8. He's being... Hang on a second. Something's a little bit odd with the running. Now, Chris Davenport hasn't pitted yet. There's nothing wrong with the running order at all. Chris Davenport is 2 laps ahead of the field. He hasn't pitted yet, and he has to within the next couple of laps. What a disaster here. Davenport had the lead in his lap, and that's a very strange blunder to make, because he's going to have to pit under green, whereas everyone else is already done so, or will have to do so again very late for a splash and go, possibly very late in the race. So Davenport, in car number 17, is restarting 2 laps ahead of the field. This is why we're running through the running order twice. Davenport is restarting with a 2-lap lead that he's going to lose almost immediately when he pits eventually. Fischl is running second. Casper de Souza in the 20 car is running in 10th in that teal and black 20 car. Luciano Savarol is running in 11th. Big send on the inside there from Joe Olenek, who is running in is going to be running 12th, 11th at the line. Fischl is going to effectively be the race leader once the field unlaps themselves. Olenek screams by de Souza, and Fischl trying to hang on there on the outside. Kenny Myatt in the 70 car way on the inside, having a pretty good restart there. Bobby Porteau in the 51 trying to make up some ground, but he's a ways back. As Savarol drifting a little further back. Fischl, though, this race is falling kind of into his lap, and he's been there to take advantage of it, and it looks like he's doing so. De Souza, however, is fighting him, because if there's another yellow, and the field is unlapped themselves twice, looks like, which they have now, then De Souza's then De Souza might be back in this thing. Here is Adrian Devereaux in the 74, who has vaulted up to 3rd. He restarted in 9th effectively, but that was essentially a single file restart. You just had one car on the outside there. Craig Youncer in the 81 car also has had a pretty strong day. Here's Cameron Taylor drifting back just a little bit, but he's hanging on to where he's currently running, as everyone's currently cycling through. Currently, scoring shows him in 4th right now, but we'll see here. Here's Fischl in car number 8, well and truly taking advantage of this, and trying to pull away a bit from Castaneda, even though Castaneda is a couple laps behind him. He doesn't have to worry about the Mexican driver that much. Here is Devereaux in the 74. That's Darian Gilliam right there in the 35. And in the black flag car, there is the 50. That is Gabriel Messena. And here's Pliskin's in. Kurt Pliskin's in the pit lane in car number 16. So Pliskin may have run over some debris on track, we understand. Not sure what, but we also saw the 13 car, David Krikorian, hit the pit lane, but that might have been for a splash of fuel, because we're not sure everyone that's still running is going to make it there. Now, Marcus Leonard and Greg Woodard are a bit off cycle, but they stayed out under that yellow. They didn't come in. Their strategy sort of dictated that for them, but Davenport really doesn't have a reason to be running in 15th right now, because he sort of had this one in the bag, and or at the very least, he wouldn't have had as many cars to deal with. Leonard and Woodard are now pitting. Now, these are 2 cars who pitting now makes a lot more sense, because they didn't really have too many other options available to them. They would have been well down the order otherwise, and that could have cost them. But you could argue that maybe they wouldn't be as far back as they could have been. De Souza in the 20 car, though, is continuing to fight this. Now, he did pit under this yellow, and I believe that was one of the early stop cars. And this 20 car is really beginning to take off, it looks like. He's trying to stay in the lead lap. He's currently scored in 5th because of all the other cars that have had to bail for the pit lane. So the running order on the restart is all jumbled up now, as he's gotten around Fischl, and I don't think Saul Fischl is going to fight him all that much. But here's Joe Olenek, a car that De Souza is trying to chase down, because this is the battle for 4th place. There's the 23 on the outside. The KLTV car, De Souza, hasn't had a whole lot to say for this year, but he has been one of the most reliable performers this year. Further down the grid, outside. Big to a little bit of contact there, but Olenek had a big slide off of turn 2. The 23 car really fighting a loose condition here in the closing stages of this race. As here is Davenport again, who has gotten himself back into the top 10. but this is still, I still can't shake the feeling that this is one of the most basic strategy mistakes that I've seen in quite a long time. It feels like they just outsmarted themselves. As Davenport is gonna, it looks like he's still gonna come away with a decent result, but not what it could have been. And I think unless he ends up, oh, we got Cameron Taylor pitting. And I believe this is just a splash and go to make sure that he makes it to the end of the race. And looking at that graphic on the right, Parker Jr. is in trouble in the 53. Taylor not wanting to roll the dice and fuel and rather opting to play it safe as, yep, there it goes. Parker Jr.'s return to the Master Cup Series ends. And that's a bit of a disappointment because that was a good-looking race car, and he was putting on a pretty good performance in his return. Here's Yevgeny Kuznetsov and Ingrid Hadeland doing battle for 6th. Two of the more entertaining figures in the media center lately. Kuznetsov always has been for his very colorful and cheerful descriptions of things and events, and Ingrid Hadeland for her ability to answer any question given to her in under 10 words or less and in a now characteristic monotone. So two very entertaining figures, both on and off the track, because Kuznetsov has been a joy to watch this year. Got his first win in his home race in Russia, and the front stretch celebrations were massive. And keep in mind, we've had 3 very, very memorable celebrations for debut winners this year. Kuznetsov, Daniel Leckleiter's celebration, and Liv Eklund's last time out in Road America. Hadeland charging to the inside, though. Here's Porteau, there's Devereaux, and there is a traffic jam behind them. That's Chrissy O'Ryan back there in the 80 car. Davenport back there in the 17. There's Cameron Taylor. So these two could lose quite a bit of ground because Devereaux looks like he caught them both napping a bit. Took advantage of them fighting each other. And that's going to move Adrian Devereaux up the running order, I do believe. Yes, it does. There's O'Ryan in the 80 car, really starting to fight for it, even though I believe she's a lap behind that battle. She backs out of it. Davenport in the hunt there in the 17. There's Cameron Taylor trying to stick his nose in as well. So this fight not over yet because Kuznetsov has it for now. And this is now the battle for 7th as Davenport swings to the inside in the Aerotil car. Here comes Taylor, and looks like Hadeland might try to sweep around him as well. See where they are coming by the line this time. And Kuznetsov falling back just a tiny bit there. He's going to have to cede that place to Hadeland. Now looking at Joe Olenek in car number 23, as he is sort of all by himself now that he's pulled away from Kuznetsov and Hadeland. And there's Adrian Devereaux you could maybe have seen on the right side of the frame there. And you can also see on the left side of the frame, that is Official and Savarol. So that is Olenek trying to catch Luciano Savarol. I think he's gonna run out of time long before he is able to unlap himself and then run down Fischl again because he's only got about 23 laps to do that. But catching Luciano Savarol not out of the realm of possibility for Olenek. Here is D'Souza, who I add is now running in 3rd because of all the way that strategy has sort of played itself out. Gasper D'Souza has once again called a bit of a masterpiece here. He is it looks like he's gonna get a huge result that he so desperately needs. But not only that, but this team could really use as a morale boost. Ortega Motorsport has had a bit of a rough go of things lately with both cars. Of course, LaRoe out of it earlier due to a mechanical issue. Here's Cooper now as in car number 2. Of course, there's still enough time for some cars to actually have fuel concerns. We're going to see if Cooper's going to be able to make it the whole way. They're running in 10th right now in the that green and white 2 car. Kind of running by themselves a little bit here. Looking back at O'Ryan in the 80 car. There is Eklund in frame. Of course, the first 2 trans drivers to be teammates in the series. And there's Woodard on the inside of both of them. And I do mention the as teammates part because that is the notable stat with both of them. Of course, both of them very young drivers, so we could be seeing them for quite a few many years to come, especially at the rate things are going. O'Ryan has been very, very positive about her few races so far, and so has Lynx in general. We're not sure what team should be driving for in Indianapolis, but probably either Lynx or their satellite team, LNX. As much of a satellite team as that is. We've been looking at Kenny Myatt, who's been running in 13th place, who's been having an excellent day so far. Kept his nose clean, kept out of trouble, and here he is looks like he's going to be running, finishing in the points if things stay as they are. The Ohioan looking very good so far, and we should see more of him later in the year. But in what car is going to be the question there. Davenport running down Olenek now. Olenek may not have to worry so much about catching Savarel. He may have to worry about Davenport more than that, because Chris Davenport's getting really big in his mirrors. Here comes Davenport on the inside. I don't think Olenek's going to have an option to fight that. He's just going to have to let him go. 92 car is still running out there. Richard Scott is still amazing. Anyways, Davenport is now gotten himself back into the top 5. It's a good recovery drive, but again, this could have been so much more than just that. Savarol, on the other hand, is going to have to contend with... he's had a bit of a hard time getting by Fischl, who is not at all going to let him by under any circumstances. But Savarol is going to also have to contend with that 17 car closing on him rather quickly. And I have a feeling Fischl would rather Savarol finish in 4th than Davenport, given who his main points rival is. Here's D'Souza, and again in car number 20, sort of running all on his lonesome. And D'Souza is we're not positive on where everyone's fuel is, but I think D'Souza is going to stick with it. We'll have to see, but he shouldn't have any fuel concerns since he pitted under that caution. But that also could just be that he's having a really hard time when the tires start to wear in. They could have missed the setup there a little bit, but this is still a fantastic run. Anyways, here is Fischl. He's got 4 laps to go. D'Souza's on the lead lap. Fischl can take his time lapping him if he wants. Of course, D'Souza may actually want to go off the lead lap because that's one less lap he'll have to complete, and could really help him if there's a fuel concern in the 20, but I don't think there is. He pitted under yellow. But I could be mistaken. Actually, D'Souza doesn't look like he's letting go at all. Looks like he might be just trying to run that out for pride and to complete all the laps, just as a mark of pride for himself and for his team. Wouldn't be out of character, but that be it as it may. Here comes Fischl. He's going to take 2 to go this time by, and I kind of wonder if Fischl would like to say that he lapped all up to 2nd place today, because that certainly seems to be on his mind. Saul Fischl, after qualifying on the front row, sort of fell back through the order a little bit, but made the most of his opportunities, and here he is coming to take the white flag. Saul Fischl trying to take a white flag, 1 lap to go. And here he comes on the... Is he going to poke his nose on the inside of D'Souza? Yep, he is. He's going to still go for it. He's going to try to finish with only 2 cars in the lead lap. Is D'Souza going to let him have it? Yep, looks like he might. But coming off the final corner, Saul Fischl, the points leader, the rookie, takes his 2nd win of the year, sending a very clear message to the rest of the field that he is no ordinary rookie driver. Adrian Devereaux was the only other driver to finish on the lead lap, just over 2.5 seconds behind Fischl. Gasper D'Souza was the first car 1 lap down, as you just saw, going from 44th to 3rd in an incredible drive. Chris Davenport, that's one of the biggest strategy blunders I've ever seen. 4th is a decent result, but that could have been a podium at least. And not only that, but Fischl also took the lap leader bonus. He led 48 laps compared to Adrian Devereaux's 45 and Davenport's 46. Ouch. Joe Olenek gets a solid top 5. That's what he needs to get his season back on track. He's had a lot of solid runs in that 23 car that just have sort of flown under the radar a little bit. Savarol, a solid result, up to 6th. Darian Gilliam, first top 10 in car number 35. A great run to get him to 7th. Ingrid Hadeland finished 8th. Yevgeny Kuznetsov and Ian Cooper complete the top 10. Marco Castagnetta was the last car 1 lap down. Bobby Porteau still showing his short track skills. A good result there in 12th. Let's give another shout out to Kenny Maya for 13th. Another great result there for the Tenaire team. They're really beginning to pick up the pace lately. Christina O'Ryan pipped Liv Eklund to take 14th. They were both 2 laps down, but seem to be having more fun finishing 2 laps down than I think I've seen any 2 drivers in quite a long time. There's a lot of positive energy coming from Lynx Racing lately. It's not hard to see why, but I almost wonder if Liv Eklund might not be aware of where she is in the championship. Certainly seems like it. Timothy Ruiz, first race in the 68 car and first points in the 68 car. And Lucas Graber with a solid run, flew under the radar and got the Equaltum ride into the points. So great result there for the German. David Krikorian gets more points today. Unfortunately, that just sounds like par for the course for the 13 car this year. However, I think they do also have the potential to dig themselves out of that hole that they're in because they are very, very fast. Arguably the fastest car week in and week out this year. Lonnie Rollins in car 980 gets himself some championship points, and Greg Woodard rounds out the points finishers in 20th place. One quick look at the Drivers' Championship, and we can really see which 3 teams seem to have entered this year head and shoulders above the rest. There are 3 teams occupying the first 6 places in the championship. Lennard International with Fischl and Cameron Taylor, Adrian Devereaux and Cameron Taylor for the Michelin Sons, and Liv Eklund and Ingrid Hadeland for Lynx Racing. I should mention it's rather interesting that Lynx Racing got a lot faster once their unionization vote was announced, and when they unionized, it seems like they got a lot more competitive. That's not to say there's only 6 cars that are still in the hunt. Joe Olenek, Tom Moore, Kurt Pliskin, Marco Castagnetta are still very much still in the hunt. And with a double points race just around the corner, that is a recipe for the entire top 20 in the championship to be turned on its head, because the most that can be gained or lost in a race is 140. Another interesting tidbit, Zelda Ashby is the only driver in the top 17 in the championship, so from Fischl to Woodard, that has been in the top 5 only once. Everyone else, either 2 times or more. That tells me that there's a lot of drivers who could launch a championship run at any second with a lot of very strong and very consistent finishes inside the top 5. And that's what this points format rewards. Drivers who are consistently very fast, and that is certainly what we've seen pan out this year. And now one quick look at the Independence Trophy. Because he had a mechanical failure very late in the race, Phil Purpura is not able to overcome Mason Yokoyama's run for the Independence Trophy. However, all of these cars will be automatically entered into the round of Indianapolis. They will all have an opportunity to qualify. And since the Independence Trophy is scored by the team's best 4 results, well, that could be one way for them to knock off a particularly awful result they got earlier in the year. But they're not the only ones looking forward to the round of Indianapolis. I believe everyone else is, and that's the next time we'll see the TM Master Cup Series in action. At the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the famed Brickyard. If you'd like to watch some previous events in the series, check out this list over here. Or check out these videos from friends of the show. Or if you'd like to be social, join the Discord.